Hello, today we are going to talk about Hecate and magical chant and mysteries he can teach. Now, my work with Hecate is kinda interesting. In my case, she is administrator of my other spiritual workings. So before I try to reach any other spirit, I call Hecate to give me advice regarding reaching that spirit. So I use her as a manager of the road within my personal spiritual ascent. And my experience with Hecate is kinda weird. I see her as a queen of the roads, literally, as a queen of the pathways to spiritual ascension, and I use her to balance all of the different spiritual currents I study. I study a lot of spiritual paths. I study actually 3 different pantheons at the same time, so those energy signatures and currents can mix in unpleasant and unbeneficial ways, and I use Hecate to kind of manage all of that and prevent all of those spiritual currents from mixing or negatively interfering with one another. And I found Hecate to be the best guide in that regard. She will really keep energies separate and she will keep them flowing nicely. She will also give you always the advice which is in your best interest. She doesn't seem to be motivated by personal gain like some other spirits, especially chthonic ones. She seems to be entirely motivated by the benefit of magician she is working with. And I think that's the pretty rare for the spiritual guide. Also, Hecate is extremely powerful being. She is much more powerful than the spirits within the Qliphoth, and she is also much more powerful than some of the more famous demons. When I first was introduced to her, she literally kicked Lucifer out of my ritual space, and she forced him to leave by pure power and strength of will. So she is in completely different tier of power than Lucifer or Belial or some other more famous spirits. Now, let's face it, majority of people who claim to work with Hecate are not actually working with anything. They are simply holding their statue and her images for aesthetic. But the serious practitioners who work with Hecate I found to be really good people, and I found serious Hecatean devotees to be extremely powerful magicians. It is a characteristic of Hecatean devotees to work with almost nothing outside of Hecate. I am not Hecatean devotee, which means that I don't work exclusively with Hecate. I work with her on a daily basis, but I also work with any other spirits, and I use Hecate mostly as an administrator, which balances currents I work with, which are mostly currents unrelated to her own. Now, from what I picked up, Hecate is Titan, and what is characteristic of the Titans is that they are kind of primordial spirits, and each Titan has its own spiritual current, and they are kind of separate from one another completely. So each Titan is kind of its own world, and each Titan is like close in power with Samael. And we know that Samael is powerful enough, Archangel Samael, to gladly and easily command all of the Qliphothic demons, which means that each entity from the Hecate's family, each Titan, is more powerful than pretty much entirety of the Qliphoth combined. So Titans are on a much bigger power level than, for example, Qliphothic spirits or Olympian gods, because according to my gnosis, which should be taken with a grain of salt, Qliphothic demons are equal in power to the Olympian gods. Actually, some of the Qliphothic demons, for example Abaddon, are demonized forms of the Olympian gods. So Hecate, as a titan, is on a completely different tier of power than Olympian gods and demons. But Hecate doesn't work in the same way Olympian gods and demons work. She cannot be commanded in any way, but what I also noticed is that her current is much more overwhelming and much more physical and dense than the current of other spirits who are weaker. Also, Hecate tends to school her devotees and magicians who work with her in a really direct way. So, for example, if you want to do something, if you really want to do it, and Hecate really doesn't like it, what she will do is she will literally wipe your ass, punch you in the face, and put you on the right track. And she definitely won't apologize. Now, there is another thing I noticed in my work with Hecate, which is her insistence that I should really ask my higher self before I engage in any form of working. Now, let me first explain what is the higher self in my experience. The higher self in my experience is an aspect of your soul which corresponds to your higher spiritual reasoning. This aspect of your soul is really good if you want to tap into higher celestial mysteries. It is really good as an administrator and guide on your spiritual path. Before you make any pacts or covenants, you should be able to reach to your higher self to make sure how the pact should be phrased, because majority of the spirits, Hecate is actually exception from this rule, but majority of the spirits, when they make a pact with you, they will try to make the terms which are most beneficial for them. You will benefit too, but in majority of cases the spirit has the bigger benefit than the operator. That's why the spirits are so easy and quick to make pact with humans, especially if the human has superficial understanding and his astral senses opened, so he can communicate and spirit can fulfill their agenda through the operator. But if you have a strong connection with your higher self, then you will be able to channel from your higher self the text of your pact with the spirits, which will prevent the spirits to take advantage from you and of you in any way. And I think this is really important. There is a lot of people in bad pacts and bad spiritual arrangements out there, and this is a really big problem, because once you sign a pact, you cannot get out of the pact, and this is really difficult for the operator to deal with. Once you sign a spiritual covenant, you become permanently bound to the current of the spirit, which then really makes altering the covenant difficult. So contacting your higher self before you get into a pact and having strong relationship with your higher self, with that celestial aspect of your soul, which will administer you on the path, is really important. And Hecate really wanted and elaborated deeply during my work about the importance of having connection with your higher self before you start any kind of working and path working. Now, Hecate is the spirit of many ways and many forms. So for each of her initiates or spirits who work with her or humans who work with her, she will have his own path. Current of Hecate cannot be phrased and described in a few sentences. Definitely Hecate has many information and misinformation about her, but I don't work with her long enough to be an expert. What I can say is that if you want to work with Hecate, you need to be ready for some serious transformation, and you need to be ready to be called on your bullshit. Hecate called me on my bullshit multiple times. Some of that bullshit I published online, so people can learn from my mistakes. But Hecate will really over and over again, constantly call you on your bullshit. She will constantly force you to evolve, and she will force you to reach the higher understanding. Now, I want to talk about using Hecatean magic for practical purposes, for philosophical point of view, a little bit. Hecate will teach you major forms of knowledge and forms of sorcery concerning absolutely everything. But if she doesn't like how you use that knowledge, she can really simply and really easily block your spell. And she will do it no matter how hard you try. If she doesn't like what you are doing, she will fucking block what you are doing. Sometimes she will even reverse what you are doing. If she doesn't like what you are doing, she can also block you from accessing her mysteries and block you from accessing certain spirits. The reason why I am publishing this video is because I wanted to do something, and that thing was really bad in the eyes of Hecate, so she threatened me to block me from accessing her deeper mysteries ever if I do that thing. And that's the reason I need this video out. If Hecate gives you this form of a threat, she will actually fulfill it if you do something she doesn't like, and in that case you are locked from her mysteries forever. She is not the deity you can bribe. You cannot bribe her with offerings and sacrifices. Actually, physical offerings and sacrifices are not something she is interested in. She doesn't give a fuck about that. From my understanding, she is too powerful to care about it, to be honest. So what she really cares about is your work with her and how you behave on your path, and are you on a road to your greatest destiny. Actually, she isn't judgmental, so you can use her magic for literally everything, but she doesn't like when you use her magic and her knowledge outside of the purpose she intended you to use it for. So in a case you use her magic outside of the way she intended you to use it, you will still keep your sorcery, you will still keep your knowledge and wisdom, but you will not be able to study deeper forms of knowledge under her wing. And for the end of this video, I will present to you a magical chant for contacting your higher self. There is a simple method to do so. Repeat the following chant you will see right now on the screen, and you need to do it in a sacred space, possibly within the energy which is consecrated by Hecate, and in that case this chant will have stronger results. But even without the presence of Hecate, this chant will be effective as long as you do it in a consecrated sacred space where impostors cannot interrupt. Important thing, while you are repeating the chant, you should be focused on the area above your head, above your crown chakra, and repeat the chant over and over until you kind of feel tingling above your head, and until you kind of feel that something is connected to you above your head, and until you are able to feel some kind of a strong celestial fire above your head. That's the sign that your higher self is actually contacted. When that happens, you should ask the questions to your higher self and write down any visions. You shouldn't take all of the information you receive in this manner seriously until you kind of really trained yourself to contact your higher self and the higher aspects of your soul. And the way you train it is you need to kind of contact your higher self on a daily basis and build connection with it. There is no shortcut here. So enjoy the chant, and train yourself to reach your higher self.
Irtun Hecateon aritagos. 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 Irtun Hecateon aritagos.